Hi guys, welcome to our first ever Physician's Choice Girl Talk. This is where we are going to have honest and open and real conversations with one another, and yeah, we're ready to take it off.
Yeah, absolutely. We wanted to do this because we wanted to help establish and create a community where, us women, we live our day-to-day lives and it can be just so stressful and hectic. And, how or where do you go to have these hard conversations? And we wanted to kind of just open that space up for you guys. And so with that being said, today's first episode, we're going to be talking about stress and emotional well-being. Like I said, as women, I just feel like, in our day and age, there's just a lot that we go through. And how do you know when you're stressed? Let's get into it. I think for me, I have a lot of triggers. My head hurts. I have a lot, I feel just like I need to decompress, but I don't know how to decompress. I don't know about you. Also, I never introduced myself. I'm Lauren, by the way. Hi, nice to meet you. Part of the social team here at Physician's Choice.
Yes, I'm Gabrielle. I'm also part of the social team here, and
yay for stress. Let's talk about it. Let's dive into it.
So today's topic is stress and emotional well-being. Lauren, how do you feel like when you're stressed?
Yeah, I just feel like I sit there and I just can't, my brain just shuts down and I just feel like I can't get stuff done. And no matter how much I tried to do the techniques that people talk to you about, like the deep breathing, like writing stuff down, like I just feel like sometimes I just feel like I'm being pushed into a corner and that I'm never going to accomplish anything. And then at that, when I think about it and I reflect on it, I'm like, oh shoot, like that's when I'm stressed.
Yes.
How about you? Like what are some top triggers for you in your everyday life?
How do I know when I'm stressed? I would say when I can't focus on one thing, like my brain is spinning. Like I'm thinking about multiple things all at the same time, which I don't even know how that's possible for my brain to do that. But that's when I know I need to slow down and I really need to just focus on one thing at a time, as hard as it is. Because I think the overwhelmed feeling is like, they all need my attention. They're all asking for my attention.
Yeah.
So I think what really helps is just kind of, as silly as it sounds, really like taking a deep breath, stepping back. And I think knowing what is priority, if that makes sense. I think that kind of even helps, like, I'm such a black and white person, so I think kind of even like almost having tunnel vision on one thing kind of helps to quiet the rest of the noise, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I'm definitely like a huge note taker. Like I'll write down like a list. So when I can physically see it, then like I'll cross stuff off of like, oh, I did this. And granted, it's also talking about like giving yourself a little bit of grace. Yeah. I think when you're stressed too, of like, it's okay if you don't accomplish all of that into a single day, because I feel like as women, we get in our heads about like, this has to be done now. We have to do this now. And like that adds more to your stress. And I think that's when you kind of just start mentally spiraling of like, oh no, I'm a failure. And it's like, no, like just take a second, decompress, figure out, what the next steps are.
Yeah. I think a big part of this too is acknowledging your stress. And even right now, like, I'm pretty calm right now. I think it's easy to be like, oh, I need to do this and this and this, 1, 2, 3, and all these different steps. But I think in the moment, it's hard to acknowledge that you actually are experiencing stress, at least for me. And I think taking ownership of that, of like, okay, I am feeling overwhelmed. I do feel a little bit like out of it because of this. Like I need to first take that step to acknowledge that and then go ahead and proceed with the rest of the steps.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like once you do that too, it's like, oh, I feel less pressure on my head and my chest, and then I can actually get my stuff done.
Yeah. For me, I think it's not suppressing my stress. I think that's the best part. I'd love to just shove it down and be like, that's not happening, because it's another thing I have to take care of. But it's the first thing we should be taking care of, right? Because we can't go and complete our daily task and what's in front of us, we're not taking care of those.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. And I feel like when you suppress it too, like that's when you accomplish nothing. And it's like, we got too much going on in our day. We got to figure that out. We can't be doing that. Now that we're like touching on stress, I feel like that kind of also affects a little bit of your, mental well-being. And how do you respond when someone says that you're too emotional?
Oh gosh, that's probably my least favorite sentence or phrase I've ever heard in my life. Might be true for sure. I can definitely let my emotions get the best of me, but I think why it's probably upsetting is just because I think everyone wants to feel validated, everyone wants to feel accepted, and I think sometimes too it's just, and this is at least what I try to do with friends of mine that are stressed too, of like, usually when I'm coming to someone, I don't want them, I know they probably can't fix my problems. I just want them to hear me out and, acknowledge that I'm going through something and at least being there for me, knowing that that's probably really hard what I'm going through. And they don't know what I'm going through personally. So I think that's a big thing for me. And that's what I try to extend to other people. Like, I can't solve this for them. And I think too, I'll also ask, like, do you want advice or do you want to vent? Most of the time, I feel like people just want to vent, again, because I feel like people just want to be heard. I don't know what that looks like for you, and how you handle that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like, especially, like, just kind of going back to, like, women, I feel like, that's why you go to your girly friends or, like, your family if you're like, I just need to get this off my chest. Is that too emotional? I don't think so. I think it's talking about your feelings, which men sometimes, I'm sorry, hate to call you out, but sometimes you just don't do it. And so us being too emotional is just us talking about and feeling comfortable being vulnerable in that sense of, like, talking about how you feel in that instance. So, I think it's important to remember that, like, emotional well-being is very, very important. I think it's important to normalize the idea that being emotional is human and it's not a weakness and it's totally okay. I mean, obviously, like, some women are, more emotional than others, but it's, again, like, how you feel the need to respond to something. Like, it just varies person to person.